Welcome to the Design Dash podcast, your guide to designing a life you love. Join us as we explore the keys to living the life you want without compromise.
Welcome to the Design Dash podcast. I'm Laura Umansky, and you may notice today Melissa Grove is not here. She's on vacation. So today you are joining me and the incredibly talented Shannon Smith, who is the Director of Interior Design at Laura U Design Collective, our design firm. So for over a decade, I think we just celebrated 11 years, Shannon has worked with me, and she brings her signature modern, glamorous style to luxury homes, really all over the world. Houston, Aspen, all over the US for sure. And then we've worked internationally together quite a bit. Shannon actually has a background in international business and a passion for design that led her from luxury hotels in Asia to high-end residences, like I said, in Aspen and Miami. Her experience is as dynamic as her designs, and her award-winning look has been featured in Luxe, Elle Decor, Modern Luxury, and more. And beyond the studio, Shannon is an avid traveler. We share that passion. She's an arts enthusiast and a Houston insider with a keen eye for all things stylish. So I'm excited to talk to Shannon today. Welcome. Thanks for joining.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited. I know Megan was on talk of the residential design side, so I'm excited to talk about kind of the other side of our firm with the furnishings and all that. So yay.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So, and if you haven't yet listened to the episode with Megan Strasberg, go back and listen to that one as well after you hear Shannon and I talk, because at Laura U Design Collective, we really are, our firm has two different creative teams. So we have one that is residential building design, and that team is headed by Megan Strasberg, and they focus on new construction interiors, really large scale renovations, high-rise fit outs, and historical renos. And then Shannon's team is our interior design team, and Shannon's director. And that team focuses mostly on cosmetic renovations, so finishes, and then largely on furnishings. And so I guess, Shannon, just to start, let's pretend like we're talking to both clients and interior designers. So I guess tell us a little bit about what you want our clients to know about working with a designer. Like, what can they expect when they come work with us?
Okay. I think the biggest thing is just that we have a lot of experience. So we've probably seen every aspect, whether it's construction or furnishings, executing things. So we have a lot of knowledge and a lot of expertise. Most of our clients are really busy, so they want somebody that can really handle everything for them. So I think that's one of the biggest things is we can take charge and just really lead the project, keep it moving through all stages of the phases, and they can be as involved or as uninvolved as they want on collaboration. But yeah, we're just experts that can guide them through the process.
And we're also team-based. So I think, every design firm is structured really differently. Mm-hmm. Our firm looks completely different than like a close friend and colleague's firm may. Mm-hmm. So talk about a little bit, how is your team structured?
So I have two separate teams. Both of them are headed by a senior or lead designer, and then they both have an assistant junior designer that supports them. And then I collaborate on all projects as well. So we have the bandwidth to take on a lot more projects because we have two independent teams. So they don't pair between the teams on projects. It's just two separate teams. That way we get to work on a lot more projects, and it's really fun. I help guide them, help edit, and just really make sure the Laura U aesthetic is upheld. So yeah, I like having two teams because we get to a variety of projects, and then also collaborate with our residential build team as well.
And so I mentioned in the introduction that you have a background in international business. And so interior design is a second career for you. And you've been in this career, I think, longer than you were probably in your first career. I'm not actually sure.
I did sales for about 10 years. So this
it's pretty,
like 12-ish.
Mm-hmm. So talk about that, because I think a lot of the listeners may be really interested in that pivot? Like, how did that work for you going from business to design?
Yeah. So I've always been a creative. I mean, always had a passion for design, like since I was a little girl. And then went to school for business. I didn't know for sure what I wanted to do. And then ended up working in sales for 10 years, which sales is beneficial for anything out there. So really, I just kind of got burned out on that career and decided to go back to school. Went to school, got all the technical aspects, and yeah, just started over at a totally new industry. But everything I think from my previous career was working with C-level executives and surgeons and medical sales. Used to working with a really high caliber of client, and then used to presenting. So a lot of that skill set is very relevant to interior design as well.
And so you went back to school to study interiors. So do you feel like that made a huge difference for you in that transition?
Absolutely. I mean, there are some people that just jump in and I think pick it up, but there's so much you learn about, the design principles, drawing, scale, all the, software programs. So I can't imagine doing it without having gone through school to learn all that.
Okay. Yeah, I know. It's so interesting because I know so many designers that actually didn't study interior
Right.
design,
Hmm.
and successful interior designers.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then,
Same.
but like I went through a master's program because my undergraduate degree was not in design at all. So then I went to architecture school and I feel like I learned all the technical aspects. But I think what they don't teach you in school are like the things that you were talking about that you got with sales. And that's how to present to people,
Yes.
like how to be in front of someone and sell your ideas.
Yeah. I mean, it's selling the design to the client on every project.
You don't
So,
learn that in school.
no. And it's something even we have to teach most of the designers. I mean, most of them are great kind of behind the scenes and, producing. And I think as they elevate in their career, they get a little more experience with it. But I think that's something that's interesting is most designers don't have a lot of business background and don't have a lot of presenting experience. So
Yeah. And
um,
that can be
I
so
love,
intimidating.
yeah, but I love like coaching the team and like building people up. So it's really fun for me to see team members that have started like as an intern with us that are now leading projects. So I like helping them kind of work through that process to learn those skills.
And like a small business owner may work by themselves or have a small team. And so you said the word coaching. I love the concept of leading a team or leading your firm with that coaching mindset.
Yes.
Like, how is that working for you? And is that different than when you started as a manager? Has that been like an
Yes.
evolution of how you approach your team?
Yes. So I love being a senior designer and like taking the reins of my projects and, really owning every aspect of the project. So when I transitioned to director, I'm more kind of operating at a high level. So setting the creative direction from the beginning with the team. And then a lot of the meetings are just very collaborative. So the designers will come in with ideas. We'll kind of go back and forth. I had a review session this morning with the designer. It's very collaborative. So I think just there's always questions too that I didn't know like early in my career that everything they asked me pretty much I've experienced with some project or another. So I have the answer for that. But yeah, I still design, but it's a lot more collaborative. And what I'm doing now is much more big picture, high level, less in the kind of day-to-day details with the client, but really helping just move the project along and guide the teams and help just like edit and refine everything.
I mean, you said they bring questions to you. And I feel like a lot of the way that I see coaching, because I love a coaching approach. And the way that I see it is it's mostly like, yes, they're bringing questions, but it's just me asking more questions so that they can get to the answer themselves.
Yes.
Do you feel like that's how you approach it?
Yes, I love coaching in the aspect of really digging in with the design team, not just giving them an answer, for example, is working on a finished project and the designer, we're very collaborative. In some spaces, she'd ask, what I should use or why she should use it. And I really want her to think about that and work through, what is it suitable for the application and, what would her choice be? Why
Yeah,
she
so
would
it's more
use
of
that.
like a guiding mentality. It's just like, have you thought about X? And
Yes.
if you haven't, think about that and go
Yes.
back and try it again and
Yes.
come back like
But
the
think about these
suitability.
things and then bring them back when we do final review.
Yeah, I mean, I think that makes so much sense, and it's allowing someone else to grow, but it's also teaching them too, which I'm a big fan of this. If you're going to bring a problem, bring solutions.
Solution. Yes.
Yeah, and so we've talked about that a lot, and I think it's easy to fall out of that habit though, and just start answering questions and doing it yourself. So do you find that you struggle with that?
I think I did earlier on. I think now I want to know like what their opinion is and what their solution to see. One, do I need to help like give them more background or training in something? Or two, just kind of seeing where their mind's at. I think early on I would just jump in with a solution. But now, I want them to find it on their own. So kind of asking more questions or seeing what their approach is and then helping re-guide them. I do that a lot too with like emails. If it's, about an important aspect of a project, the designer will do a draft and I'll just kind of tell and make sure everything's like going in the right direction and help like redirect on big things if needed. So yeah.
Make sure it's like crystal clear and it's easy for the client. Cause like the end result is we want it to be easy for the client.
Yeah. Easy for the client, easy for the builder, whoever the, end user of the document or presentation is very clear on what we're asking or sending them.
So we've worked together a really long time. So over 10 years, so like 11 years. So that's a long time.
Yeah.
And when you became a manager, I remember you saying like it wasn't really easy for you to give up control and delegate. And you didn't think you wanted to.
Yeah.
So what changed?
So I think like I am a perfectionist type A, like want everything to be perfect, want, to take control of everything. And I remember you and another, team member we had at the same time were like, I think you'll like it. It's fun. Like you get to do the fun parts of the project. And I was like, no, I want to do
You're
it
not going
all.
to lose your creativity.
Yeah. So, I think it just takes experience. Like once I started delegating and like learning that other people could take it on, it's just so nice. You don't have to do every single thing. And you get a better result too when multiple people are collaborating. But yeah, it was very hard for me. I'm such a perfectionist and type A that it was very hard early on for me to let go.
Yeah. And you're happy you did though?
Yeah. I've had have some moments that I kind of jump into that senior role with projects here and there. And then I'm like, okay, yes, I think I like directing better, just being creative, but, helping guide. And just also with us focusing more on the business is very interesting to me, which is something, a senior designer doesn't really get as much involved with.
Yeah, that's true. And client management is such a huge part of your role and like relationship development and maintenance. So like, what are some client pain points that you're seeing right now? Like, what are you seeing that's coming up for clients that they are having a hard time with?
A couple of projects come to mind where the husband and the wife, or, there's multiple people that are decision makers on a project and they have kind of differing styles. A lot of times, we'll have just one person that's really meeting with us, coming to presentations, and their spouse or significant other on it may have a different opinion, but we're not hearing that early on in the project. So we've had a few where we've had to go back and redesign. We try to get all that info up front, but they're, marrying two styles or not kind of having the understanding that of the second contributor early on. So I think
have
that's
you ever had a client like fight with their spouse in front of you?
Yes.
What do you do? Like, it's been so long since I've seen that. I've definitely seen it.
Yes.
And it's awkward as hell.
Yeah.
What do you do?
I think like I'm just kind of sit back and like let them have their moments and then, kind of redirect to maybe if it's a hang up on a specific room, then maybe, let's move on to the next space. But yeah, I mean, some of them like to go at it, and I just like to give them their space.
You're like, rein it in, guys. Go do this at home over some wine later. Like, okay, moving on. Oh, yikes. It's been a really long time since I've had to present because you and Megan really bear the responsibility of presenting to clients because that's that's like where you guys shine. Like you're so good at that. And so I think that's a delegation lesson actually for me. Yeah. I always felt like I've got to be there. I've got to sell it. They're not going to get it. For our listeners, like Shannon is such a better presenter and salesperson than I ever was. I used to try to talk her like out of presenting certain things. So I was like, they're not going to go for it. It's too risky or it's too much of an investment. It's going to be too expensive. And she would sell the hell out of the idea and the expense of it because it is a fine piece or like an iconic piece. It's an investment. And she could do it. And I was just like, at that point, I was like, I'm out. You do this better than me. And I think that is, I mean, that's true of like people on your team too, that like those skill sets in like a senior or a junior, like for a senior designer, what are you looking for in that person? What is a senior designer role for you?
I mean, I think it's multiple things. So I think with like, at a very high level, it's being a leader within the firm. So when we're having company-wide meetings or just setting the rapport, daily in the office with the culture, just really being a leader. So I think it's a leadership role. It's very client communicative driven. So somebody that, wants to really communicate with clients, be the point of contact, isn't afraid to pick up the phone or have tough, conversations. And then, I mean, also obviously somebody that can design well because they are leading the project. So having, really strong design, and we're very niche. The, high-end residential market is very specific to, vendors and finishes and expectation of clients. So I think not all people are a good fit for that market. So, somebody that can really thrive in that environment.
Do you feel like when, like, let's, for example, we're hiring for a senior, if we were hiring for a senior designer, like that's kind of we are so niche. It's a hard person to find, but do you feel like, let's say they're lacking one or the other, let's say they're lacking the design expertise or they're lacking the high-end market. Which one would you rather them lack?
I think probably like
which
if
can you train easy, which is easier to train?
I think that designers will pick up, like I'll be more involved in the front end, but they will pick up kind of taste level and elevated vendors over time. I think if they don't have like that technical expertise at all, then it's going to be much more of a struggle. So I feel like if they have like a pretty good base level, then we can really elevate them with their vendor knowledge and just kind of observing and evolving their projects.
So easier to train the aesthetic expertise rather than the communication expertise.
I think so. Like if you're not organized and you're not a good communicator, I don't know how to train you on that.
Yeah, it is a hard thing to do.
But I can, take you to showrooms or kind of do parts of the presentation that you can, learn from and kind of, mirror and guide what your expectations are. So yeah, I think for me, that's probably easier to train. It may not be this case for everyone, but that's
I agree. I think that it's really hard to train someone to be organized. I feel like, so you and I we've worked together a long time. So we've really developed our process together. And so it has evolved and really taken shape over the years. And we have a very streamlined design process now. Like how important is that to you to follow it?
I mean, I think that's why we're so successful because we have gone through so many projects. We've thought of all the details. We've thought of the pain points and really changed that process to have a successful end result. And then also is very easy for the, design team to follow. We get a new project. They know the expectations of exactly what to do. It's never a question of, we just start a new project. Where do we go from here?
Yeah, now what? It's different every time. No. Yeah.
And there are some clients that will kind of like try to pivot off our process. And I mean, every project needs to have some flexibility, of course, but those that, just definitely don't want to work the way we do, I think is the challenge, because we are definitely like to adhere to our process, and we know it's successful and like it's in the best interest of the client, but some people it may not be a fit for.
Yeah, I think that's true. Like, it sounds rigid, right? That we are so streamlined and we have this tight process, but there's a lot of creativity within that process. And it just makes it to where things don't fall through the cracks.
Exactly.
Like, it's keeping, for me, a project, the most important thing is keeping momentum. Like, if you stall out, either things are going to get forgotten, or the client's going to get pissed, or the builder's not going to have what they need. Like, someone's suffering if the momentum is not kept.
Yeah, for sure.
So I don't know. I feel like most of the new hires that we've made have been able to learn that process, and they get it. Like, they understand why we're doing it and why we're keeping this like pretty quick clip of design. Like, we move pretty quick.
Yeah. One of the seniors that we've had that's been around for a number of years, like, I feel like she totally gets it and understands the why and has really picked up on it. So I think it's definitely a successful process, and our designers that are a good fit, like, get on board and, enjoy having that direction and that thought of every detail in the front end, to not have to, what do we do in this case scenario?
So our phases start because we haven't really talked about this before on the podcast. It's very much in our community. So we have Design Dash community, and we spell this out. And it's very much in Laura U Design Collective within the firm. Like, it's the backbone of what we do. But our process for furnishings, like for the interior design team, starts with discovery, goes into schematic, which is concept, then into design development, where we're figuring everything out and really detailing, then into procurement, and then into installation, and finally project commissioning, where we are, going through troubleshooting.
Right.
Out of those steps and those phases, which do you feel like is the most critical?
I think the discovery phase, because that's where you're really setting the direction and really getting to know the client. You can also, I think, tell through kind of the images and the fabrics and the materials. It's a very like interactive and tactile process that we do during those discovery meetings. So I think it really helps set the direction. And, if the client thinks they're modern, but they're not modern, it'll come out during that discovery process. So I think like you've got to have the right direction for the project to be successful and a true understanding of what the client wants. So I'm also about like notes, and then we revisit them when we start designing, just making sure everything that the client upfront wanted that we are following through with. Yeah,
because it's really easy if at the beginning they're like, so what we do is we hang up a ton during discovery. We pin up a ton of fabrics, and a client can come in and we ask them to take down the ones they don't like. That's easier for them than saying what they do like. So they may pull down, like, example, a cream colored boucle, and they're like, I hate cream colored boucle. Fine. We note that. Then once we get into the design, like a junior designer or whoever, even one of us, may have forgotten over time that they hate cream colored boucle. So before we present that schematic or even into design development, that's what you mean by revisiting those notes. Oh shit, they hate cream colored boucle. I got to redo this, I don't know, master settee, right?
Yeah. Like, it's very important to me to understand like the feeling the client wants, and repeat those throughout the process, and also kind of knowing their likes and dislikes up front, and just making sure like the notes continue and the knowledge from the client continues. So like every time we do a review, I will bring in all the notes for like all the previous reviews or previous client meetings, like as we keep evolving, just make sure nothing gets missed.
Yeah, I think it's a smart touch point. So just to pivot the conversation a little bit, let's talk about industry events. So you are out and about, right? Yeah. I mean, you're like our resident socialite. So, tell me, what are maybe just one or a couple of your favorite events like that happen throughout the year?
So probably my favorite is Design Week, which usually happens in the spring, at least that's kind of the one I'm more driven to attend a lot of events for. I think it's great just like learning opportunity because they'll bring in designers from kind of all over the world as speakers. And it really brings out the design community. I have so many friends that I've met, just attending events. And so it's also fun just, see friends. So I think Design Week, where there's a lot of social, there's a lot of book signings and a lot of talks is probably my favorite.
What about travel? Where are you going? Where have you been and where are you going? What's your favorite?
I have been so many places. Usually I have a big summer trip lined up. So I don't have that yet, but
I can't believe it.
I know. I was just with a girlfriend last night. So we were talking about, somewhere cool. So maybe Sweden or a number of kind of ideas we were throwing out. And then I think you and I, and maybe somebody else from our team, are probably going to the Paris conference.
To Maison Objet. Yeah.
So I'll probably tack on, something with that as well. But yeah, I generally do like a Europe trip once a year.
Yeah. Okay. Amazing. What's the best trip you've taken recently?
Oh gosh.
I feel like you go so many places.
Yeah. I think my all-time favorite is Paris. It's just like the epitome of everything I love. So art, design, architecture, fashion, food, wine. So I'm excited to go back. That I think is such a place of design inspiration and just like personal interest.
Yeah, it's funny. So we usually go to the January Maison Objet because it's combined with Deco Off. So this will be the first time we've gone to September, and I'm so excited for the weather. Like the weather is going to be fabulous. I can't wait.
Yes.
I've also done a shopping trip to Paris in December, January. I don't know why I always go. It's cold and it's snowing and it's slushy. And so September.
They need to move Deco Off to the fall one.
I'm telling you, I know. Okay. I feel like we've covered a lot, and I appreciate you giving us an insight into your day to day. This has been really great. I appreciate it.
All right.
Well, okay. And if anybody wants to connect with Shannon or find out more about her, you can just go to Laura U Design Collective or laurau.com because she is on there and you can find her there. Thanks, Shannon.
Okay. Sounds good.
Thank you for listening. Make sure to check out our next podcast coming live next week on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. In the meantime, you can find us and more wonderful stories like these on design-.com. And make sure to follow us at Design Dasher on Instagram and TikTok. Till next time.